Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, joined by my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
I wore the shirt, and it's completely accidental.
He wore the shirt, and
Yeah,
it was
it was-
accidental. I have a cool new shirt, so
You
my
got
shirt.
your.
I'm gonna go to solo shot on me for this. So for our video audience, none of you guys can see this. Or for our video audience, you can see this, but our audio only audience, you can't. So I am wearing a shirt that my awesome wife got me Valentine's Day. It says "Shop smart, shop as smart," and I was blown away. My wife has the best taste in t-shirts, and I'm not just saying that because we're doing a Valentine's Day episode, and it kind of fits, but she really does have the most awesome taste in t-shirts ever. Like I don't get it.
I do want to apologize to our listening audience that because of me we are late on this one. So I guess
No. Do not blame yourself at all. Things happen, and that's the thing I want people to understand is like John and I don't do this podcast for money.
that'd be cool.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. But we do not do this podcast for money. We do this for fun. Okay, like no one is paying us. We don't have a sponsor. We don't have any of that. It's really just John and I have fun and enjoy talking about movies. You know, we've been doing this for April 1st, John, will mark 9 years since we started the podcast.
We're coming up on a decade soon.
We're coming up on a
Holy
decade.
fuck.
Next year will be 10 years since myself, John, and Lane started the podcast. But yeah, I mean, we don't get paid for this. We don't do it's not a job. It's for fun. And honestly, I've always attributed this podcast as like therapy, like a time that I can say like, hey, I'm going to hang out with one of my best friends and talk about movies. And that's fun. So like, yes, sometimes life happens and sometimes we're not able to go ahead and get the episode out at the time we wanted. That was an instance that happened this time around. It wasn't that we don't try. We absolutely did try, but stuff happens and that's okay. And that's going to happen, even if we were getting paid and something like this happened. Yeah, it's going to be delayed, but we made sure everyone knew about it. We're rescheduled it for right now. So yeah, don't beat yourself up, John. Things happen.
I was gonna say like all the holiday based ones. We should just record them all in a row. Like let's do the Leprechaun video after this.
I mean, we could, but I kind of like doing the Leprechaun. Like a holiday. This ones you kind of have to try. And I think like we're coming off of this 2 days after Valentine's Day, so that's fine. That's fine.
That episode, for anybody that watched it live, I do apologize because last year's Leprechaun, I was drinking green food dyed beer because it was St. Patrick's Day, and my entire mouth, I looked like Beetlejuice.
I didn't want to tell you. Truth be told,
I could see it in the camera.
Well, I know, but
Yeah.
I was like, it's like, how long is it going to be before John realizes that his mouth is green and his teeth are green? So this time around, you gotta come in with like dressed in green makeup, like just the whole face, go all Elphaba from Wicked and be all green.
I'll come in Leprechaun style. Yeah,
be Leprechaun style.
Lucky Charm style.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You should get a Leprechaun outfit. You should get a Leprechaun outfit. All right, but we're not talking Leprechaun today, right? We're not talking Leprechaun today.
I was gonna say people that love our show are loving the banter, but like new people, like that doesn't lose an audience any faster than just when two people are bantering about things that are not the topic. So here we go. We're gonna get to Valentine now.
We're getting to Valentine, and I'm not cutting any of this shit out, by the way. But I will put chapters in the YouTube video. So there you go. There's that. But yes, this week we are talking about Valentine, a movie that I honestly thought I was going to hate it a lot more the second time around watching it, because when this movie here's the thing, John, when this movie came out, I fucking hated it. But upon rewatch, I've got a little bit of, I know, a view that's going to be kind of counter to you. But John, what is it about this particular movie that that people that people kind of either love it or hate it, because that was the thing. Overall, when I looked online, people either love Valentine or they hate Valentine, and like it's most critics circles will say like, oh yeah, it's a unsung slasher of the early aughts. But John, what's your thoughts on it?
Which is insane. Like I think that this is what I would call the tail end of the Scream renaissance. Like, you know, when you have slasher movies in like 90 or 91, it's like, oh, you guys kind of missed the boat. Like, you know, you should have been there in the mid 80s. Like, you know, after Scream, you got like, I know what you did last summer, Urban Legend, the remake of the other Valentine's Day, My Bloody Valentine, you know, things like that. But this one kind of came towards the end of that, and it's just, I don't understand how, love it or hate it, like Scream was kind of calling out cliches in horror movies, only for that to spark a whole generation of cliched horror movies. And this one to me offers nothing except your childhood crush, whether that's Marley Shelton or Denise Richards or whomever, or David Boreanaz. Yeah, other than maybe having nostalgia for your childhood crush in this movie. I don't think this movie offers anything except a couple good giggles at how lame it is.
So here's my kind of initial thoughts. I went into this totally expecting to hate this thing up and down, left and right. Was literally like, this is going to fucking suck. But I rewatched it, and maybe it's because of the fact that I blame the soundtrack personally, because this soundtrack was like my high school soundtrack. So there's that problem there. Secondly, I kind of liked how they went against the kind of, I don't know what it is, like the stereotypical female in a slasher movie vibe. Okay, like don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stereotypes in this movie, but like for me at least, it felt to me like every one of these women in this movie were completely separate from like the traditional slasher film stereotype of a woman. In that,
well, Denise though,
Denise. Okay, I didn't say that everyone was, but I'm just saying like, okay, Denise Richards in this. Let's pick on her. Okay,
plays
her
Paige
character
Prescott.
Paige. I wonder why that last name was chosen. So Denise Richards, she comes across as the quote unquote sexy one. Okay. She's the sexy one.
I would at least say horny one, because they're all beautiful ladies, but Paige will suck your dick behind the dumpster of Olympias, you know. Except
for Jeremy Melton, though. Except for him, he grew. He's got glasses. He's gross. But so what I mean by that is like, even though yes, she does have that stereotype associated with her in this movie, she isn't like necessarily the dumb one who's going to get killed that way. Now, traditionally, when you watch a slasher movie, the character like Denise Richards, yes, very much is like one of the first people killed. Like she's the first one killed because she does the cardinal sin of having sex, right? Like that's the thing. You go back to Jason, Freddy, all of them, they all kind of like the minute they do that or the minute they're that character, they're the first one to die. And Paige actually is like one of the last ones, which is kind of different than, say, the other slashers of the era. But, you know, are there stereotypes in this? Yes. Are they different than other slasher films? Yeah, they are. But to kind of give you a little background on this film was directed by Jamie Blanks of another slasher you might be aware of called Urban Legend, which in my opinion,
that makes so much fucking sense.
It's a far superior movie to this one. Wouldn't you agree?
I'm not a big fan of either.
You don't like Urban Legend, but it's got Robert Englund in it. Come on.
It does have old Babby Englund, but I will say that like, I think that like the 70s and 80s and even early 90s slashers, like they had a charm about them that by the time, and I know Urban Legend is also the 90s. I'm talking like early 90s. By the time they came out, they were so polished. I'm like, where's the grime? Where's the dirt? Where's the Nixon's president? It just doesn't have it for me.
Well, let's be honest here, and I think the big skeleton in the closet here about this whole movie, and just like this time period in general, is that this, as you said, is in response to Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Okay, it again was like, how can we get sexy 90s teens, or in this case, sexy 90s people in their late 20s, early 30s, to play teenagers and have them get killed. Okay. And both this movie and Urban Legend, and they pretty much all follow the same structure as I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream. Okay. Scream was a bit more artful. I Know What You Did Last Summer, kind of a play off of it, but still somewhat new.
I'm gonna piss the audience off when I say
no,
this.
You're not.
I Know What You Did Last Summer is utterly hilarious garbage.
Oh, it's absolutely hilarious.
It is so badly acted. It is so contrived. It is Ryan Phillippe in the movie. I laugh my ass off on how bad he's an 11 all the time.
Oh yeah, well, let's be honest here. Ryan Phillippe in that movie is taking steroids, and what you're seeing is roid rage.
Yeah,
for 90 minutes before he gets killed.
There are times where like I put on Scary Movie and I don't know. Wait, I'm like, is this I Know What You Did Last Summer? Oh wait, no, this is the mockery of it. My bad. Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is that these movies, including Valentine, are all part of this kind of revival of the slasher era because of Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer specifically. If those movies didn't catch fire, there wouldn't be this new, idea of let's redo slasher movies, but make them sexy for the 90s, and yeah, Valentine is kind of the tail end of that, because only a few short years later do you get movies like Saw and Hostel that I think kind of, well, that, and I also believe you get like Ring, and kind of the shift to not kind of make this glamorized like slasher, but more of the kind of gore, and even in some case like what the Japanese horror movies were doing, like really just grounded also in the supernatural to some degree. So I think like that this movie is kind of the last gasp of that. I don't think you get another one like Valentine after this. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, like I did enjoy a little bit of this because of how fucking stupid it was. Like there are stupid moments in this that I'm like, okay, yeah. Like it just. But let's start at the beginning. Okay, let's start at the beginning. So this movie opens up.
Wait, you mean prom night?
Yeah, prom night. It's basically prom night.
It's just prom night. Yeah,
it's fucking prom night. But this movie opens up with this kind of weirdo like montage-y sequence of a middle school dance in which this nerdy kid Jeremy is just trying his heart out to just get to dance with one girl at his entire school. And I find it funny that his entire school only has like apparently 6 girls there. Didn't you find that funny, John? Like there are only 6 girls, excuse me, not women, who are at the school.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, like, that tracks. It's a small town. You have 149 boys and 6 girls. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
It makes perfect sense to you. Yeah. But yeah, he just wants to dance with somebody, and every girl that he goes up to, they either say, "Ew, you're gross," or "I rather die," or what does young Denise Richards character say? "Oh yes, I rather be drowned in a pool and boiled alive." Foreshadowing. Yeah, I'd rather be boiled alive or something like that. And guess what happens to her later? She gets boiled alive. But yeah,
I'd rather have a dark, mysterious stranger I know from yoga come live at my rich stepmom's house.
That is Dorothy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, first of all, that's Dorothy. And that was the only girl who actually did give him the time of day, because Dorothy back then was the ugly friend.
Which okay, can we talk about this?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This part was kind of like, what the fuck, man?
I know this is pre 9/11, but like first, I want to talk about the boy. He is just like he's just a little dorky. Like he looks like young Sheldon, and like okay, he's not the coolest kid in the world, but there's nothing like actively wrong with him. Like not that there's anything wrong with this, but he's not like he has like elephantitis, where kids would be cruel to that. Again, there's nothing wrong with anybody that has elephantitis. I want to be clear what I'm saying, like, but not something that the kids could easily pick on. And then this only in 2001 could this girl who is perfectly normal looking is considered like the fat, ugly one. And like that poor young girl who auditioned for this movie, it's like, oh, good, we finally found our fat, ugly little kid. And it's just, what does that do to someone's self-esteem? And for Christ's sake, she looks fine. The fuck is wrong with you, 2001?
Oh yeah, the early 2000s and just the late 90s in general. Horrible time to be a kid in that time. Like I remember that time period vividly. I mean, John, you and I are the same age, so a lot of the archetypes we were seeing there, we're familiar with. Okay. Yeah. And, I knew people who, unfortunately, like they took the media's depiction of what beauty is in the the late 90s and early 2000s. And, it was not very good for them in terms of like how they treated themselves. And I think that's a result of our culture back then. I think it's getting better now. I hope it's better now. But like back then, it was not. Like it was, if you're not super skinny, then you're just ugly. And like, yeah, with the whole thing with Jeremy, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just a nerd. And it's like, okay, is that it? But yeah, I didn't like how they made the younger version of Dorothy to be, oh, she's so ugly, look at her. But yeah, she's the only one who gives Jeremy the time of day. But she also is the only one who like really, man, fucks this kid up royally, because she, when it's found out that she is making out with Jeremy under the bleachers at the dance, she is the first one to say that Jeremy attacked her and sicks a bunch of bullies on Jeremy who publicly humiliate and beat the shit out of him. And I keep going the whole time going like, where are the fucking adults?
Where are the
Where are the adults at? What adult would just sit there and go like, well, I'm gonna let it play out?
It's like, hey guys, I think one of these kids spiked the punch because I'm real hammered and I'm not gonna stop this. I'm gonna laugh. That kid's half naked and traumatized beyond repair.
Yeah, they just let these kids just beat the shit. I'm like, what fucking school dance just allows that? But it happens, and that then leads into the movie starting. But a lot of things are referenced back to this dance. And we're introduced to Katherine Heigl, not at the peak of her fame, because she gets killed off the first 10 minutes.
This is pre-Grace. Yeah.
Yeah, this is pre-Grace. This is right after, I think this is right after she did like, what the hell movie was it? Oh, it was Chucky 4. So it was Bride of Chucky. She had coming right off of the Bride of Chucky train.
Oh yeah, she wasn't.
Because remember, she was in that.
Yeah.
She played, I think Jade was the character in that movie. But yeah, this is her right after that. So she's still in the horror train here, and she plays the quote unquote smart one. She's the smarty pants one. She was one of those girls who grew up. She's on a date with a terrible guy who, I kid you not, he plays the character. And wrote down the names of these people here because I was like, I got to remember these people. His name's Jason Marquette. And I wrote down that he's a douchebag who refers to himself in the third person. John, have you ever met anybody who refers to themselves in the third person?
I can say I have not. There are only two people I know who refer to themselves in the third person. They're both celebrities who I've not met, and that is Deion Sanders, the football player, and The Rock.
Yeah, but The Rock is a character.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
The Rock
Dion is kind of a character too.
I know. But I'm just saying The Rock is a character. He doesn't say, he doesn't go ahead and when he's ordering his cappuccino at Starbucks saying, yes, according to The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Dwayne The Rock Johnson wants, a double mocha frap. Okay.
That would make me so happy if he really went around the world going, the Dwayne he's here to pick up his dry cleaning.
According to the Dwayne, it's like, but I've never met anyone who actually refers himself in the third person. I don't think this is a real thing. So like, again, like the one of the hallmarks of this type of movie at this time period is that so many things in this are so fucking weird. And I think part of it is it's so fucking weird because it's the 2000s.
Yeah, it's twofold. This really is an homage to, I would say, like late 70s, early 80s slasher films. Like when we jokingly said this is Prom Night, I really feel this is an homage to Prom Night. Like something tragic happens when somebody's young, and then people are going to have to pay for it when they're older, and we don't know who the killer is, and he wears a frightening mask. That's like, I'm like, oh gosh, I've never seen that before, he says ironically. But that combined with just how weird pre 9/11 was, just such a strange world when you combine those two things. Like, it's like, I don't know what the nostalgia is for like, say, you and me, Brian. Like, is it the nostalgia of this is an homage to old slasher films, or is it now the nostalgia of 24 years ago?
It's a nostalgia of 24 years ago, John. For me, at least, the nostalgia was the new metal soundtrack throughout this entire movie. I will give this movie props for basically having pretty much my entire high school music listening experience in a movie. Like I'll give it that. I'll give this movie that. But yeah, I think to answer your question, like I think the nostalgia of, remember how weird things were before the world got really scary real fast?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the thing is this really is a movie that came out. It came out like the early February of 2001. So yeah, but before we were terrified, before that's the sort of thing. And yeah, the only thing you had to worry about back then was getting maggots in your box of chocolates. That was the worst thing.
I want to know how he managed that, because like,
we're gonna get to that, John. We're gonna get to that. There's a lot of movie to get through. Okay,
yeah.
But yeah, just kind of sticking with Katherine Heigl. She's a med student. She goes on this terrible date with this guy who thinks he's gonna get some. He doesn't get any because he refers himself in the third person, and he's just fucking weird. But she becomes the first victim, and unceremoniously killed again in like the first 5 minutes of this movie. Does she get the bow and arrow to the face? Do you remember?
Oh no, she hides herself in a body bag. And, yeah. And that gets opened up, and yeah, I don't
stabby.
I don't know what her strategy there was. Like, I would rather die on my feet. Like, okay, I'm gonna try to storm this guy, maybe kick him in the balls, bite his throat, something, instead of just, I hope he doesn't open the body bags that I'm hiding in.
And this killer, what he ends up doing in his MO is that he sends really creative Valentine's Day cards to people. And I got to think to himself, I'm like, this is a very crafty person who manages to create very, very artful pop-up Valentines that have horrible things happening to him. Like one's like, oh yes, they're going to identify you by your teeth.
Yeah, but this person is very they like, the detective in this movie should have been like looking up Hobby Lobby.
Oh my god, he should have gone to every Michael's, every Hobby Lobby, every like scrapbooking, store, because he would have totally found this person just for that. But granted, the detective was more concerned about getting into Denise Richards' pants throughout the whole movie.
Okay, I know we're really jumping ahead, but I do need to address that because you brought it up. The detective is kind of a throwaway character. He's more there to get the plot along, but he's also investigating this for our heroines. And for him out of nowhere to be a sleazebag makes him a villain for no purpose. It never goes anywhere. And it's like, why did he have to have this left turn into from hard-nosed cop who doesn't take any bull to pervert, and it doesn't even matter, and we're still supposed to like be on his side because he's still helping our ladies, but now he's like a sick pervert, and it's like, why did you was he supposed to be the every 15-year-old boy's audience surrogate who wants to also touch Denise Richards' knee? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. I don't know what you want me to tell you, John. Okay, this movie came out after Wild Things, so yes, that's who he was. He also had to have a reason to get killed.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like if we go by slasher logic,
innocently die.
No one innocent die. Well, technically, Ruthie is an innocent who gets killed. You know, Ruthie is the ex-wife or girlfriend or whatever the hell of Campbell, the guy who's trying to like steal all of Dorothy's money with his get rich quick scheme, who kind of shows up. She's an innocent. She isn't doing anything wrong to anybody. So yeah, she kind of gets killed, but her whole big thing is she's annoying in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But yeah, the detective, because he's trying to get with Denise Richards, that's why he ends up dying.
Well, what I don't understand about this movie is as Brian just set up, that all of these people rejected the boy at the dance, like all this group of hot basic bitches. They were all like that's their only character thing. Rejected him at the dance, and now he's coming back to get revenge on them. They're so unlikable because they almost kind of gleam like fondly and nostalgically about torturing this young boy. And I'm like, I don't care if you all die. You all suck. Like, if they had that scene where it's like, God, we were terrible to that kid, and they said, yeah, I regret so much like what we were like back then. Like, yeah, me too. I can't believe we put him through that. Like, oh, we were such terrible people. But oh, okay, they've grown and they've changed, but they're the same people. They're like almost reveling in like mocking and belittling this kid. Like, good, die. I don't care if you live.
Yeah, no, the movie does not do a very good job of making us root for them at all. Like the only person who you at all care about is Kate, played by Marley Shelton. It's like she's the only one. Wendy Peppercorn. Yes, she's the only one that you ever actually care about. We don't get enough knowledge of Katherine Heigl's character to really care about her, because she's killed in the first 5 minutes. But yes, everyone else is kind of just like, don't really like him.
Yeah.
But getting along with the movie here, Katherine Heigl dies, and we then get the obligatory, funeral scene where we meet all of our grown-up characters. As we mentioned before, Denise Richards plays Paige, the sexy one. Marley Shelton plays Kate, the nice one. Dorothy plays, Dorothy's played by Kate Capshaw's daughter, who is the quote-unquote former overweight rich one, okay? Because we have to have that, okay? And then we have Jessica Cauffiel. I hope I pronounced it right.
Yeah, good job, because I was
who
like,
plays Lilly, the funny one. And I was like, where have I seen her before? And I think she was really popular on, I think she might have been on Mad TV. And I think she might have also been in like The House Bunny or what the hell is it? Legally Blonde. So I think she was a character from those kind of early aughts movies.
Oh, Brian, she was in White Chicks.
Okay. Well, there's that.
Yeah, she was in
was she in Legally Blonde?
Legally Blonde, yeah.
Okay. I figured she was the sorority type of girl in that, because I think that Elle Woods had a bunch of friends, and I think she was one of them.
Well, she's also in Legally Blonde too, Red, White, and Blonde. So
because we needed to have a sequel. But anyway, she's the Lilly, the funny one. And yeah, they're terrible people, with the exception of Kate. Kate's going through a hard time though, because she's got a boyfriend who she's kind of in between, relationship. She had a boyfriend, but now it's not really a thing now because he is a drunk. And guess who he's played by, John?
Is it a guy whose neck and head are the same size?
Something like that. Played by Angel.
Aniel.
Angel. David Boreanaz. Which, gonna give it away right now, he's the killer. Because you know why? And this is something that if you ever want to know who's the bad guy, this is a trick I can tell everyone who is listening and watching this podcast right now. If you are ever watching either a TV show like a crime drama like Law and Order SVU, or if you're watching a horror movie that's like a slasher like this, let me tell you something. The minute that you look at the cast list and the people who are like highest paid and have some name recognition, I will bet money that person is the killer or the criminal. And it's a funny thing because there is no way in hell that you could look at this movie and go like, yeah, David Boreanaz isn't the killer. Of course he is.
Right. Well, it reminds me when we did the Five Nights at Freddy's review and they had the guy that
Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, Stu from Scream. Like, I'm like, yeah, he's not just here for a one-off scene. He's the only name in this movie. He's gonna be the killer. Yeah, and at this time, I mean, his career's kind of stunted a little bit since it, but Dave
not in 2001.
No, but 2000. He was huge.
2001. This is peak Buffy Angel time. This is like, whoa. He is at its absolute peak. This is also Denise Richards at her peak. So that's why she's front and center on the poster.
Yeah, they did a little bit in this movie of trying to like give you some other options. It's like I not many, but I mean, at least they threw a couple of people out there to be like kind of throw you off the scent.
But they did do a very good job.
No,
like, let's be honest here. They didn't do a very good job. Campbell, who is played by Daniel Cosgrove of Van Wilder fame. Okay. If you want to know who he was Richard, the guy who shit his pants during his exam. But anyway,
didn't he also eat dog cum?
He also ate dog cum.
Which I'm just gonna sidebar for a moment. I just need to talk because I don't think we're ever gonna talk about Van fucking Wilder on the show.
Oh, come on, John. You don't want to do that episode?
Well, maybe we will, but I'm gonna repeat what
you
want
to do
now.
Van Wilder 2, The Rise of Tosh.
First, First off, that's a sex crime. Secondly, Van Wilder had to jerk his dog off for weeks and collect and refrigerate his semen. And also, thirdly, he did not neuter his dog. That is just reckless.
I love how you brought in your own love of animals into this. I just got a dog. I got 2 dogs now. Let me tell you about the importance of spaying and neutering your pets.
Yeah. Hey, Van, what are you doing? I'm jerking my dog off into this plastic mason jar.
Oh, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, Valentine. But anyway,
I need to stuff donuts with dog jizz.
Nasty. Anyway, yeah, Daniel Cosgrove is not really someone that I even look at as like, yeah, he could be the killer. The other person in there was obviously Jason Marquette, who's the first one. He's really pushed hard as like, oh yeah, he could be totally the killer. But then you've got like Max. Well, not really Creepy Neighbor. I never thought Creepy Neighbor was him.
Yeah, Creepy Neighbor is there just to fill a kill count.
Yeah, he's there just to be killed. Like, let's be honest here. But you've got Max, who is Lilly's boyfriend, who I described him as the no talent artist who just wants to express his art and have a 3-way with his girlfriend and art dealer.
Well, yeah, which, nothing wrong with that, but as long as everybody's in on it.
As long as everyone's into it.
Yeah.
That's it. As long as everyone's into it.
There, brother.
Consent. It's important. Yeah. But yeah, all of the other guys that could potentially be the killer, none of them at all fit. Whereas I'm like, of course, David Boreanaz is going to be the killer. Of course he is. Because of course, he's the biggest name here. You're not going to have some no name be the killer in this movie. But yeah, the obligatory funeral happens. and they start getting cards, the murdery cards. And this is where the whole story kicks off, where they're all afraid they're getting stalked by these killers. And then we just kind of get like a series of weird vignettes, like really weird vignettes. Like for me, the biggest weird vignette is the art show.
They wanted a set piece. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's like the cinematographer wanted something to do, because otherwise, unless it was a night scene, like the cinematography was very flat. But it's because this movie is not, this isn't a Deakins production here, like it just needs to be exposed correctly. So the cinematographer, I think, was like, could we do something where everybody's lit by like light changing screens and it looks like a maze? Like I could actually do something.
It's a maze of body parts and boobs and mouths and eyeballs. Like that's the thing. That's why I said, like, this movie is very simple in the standpoint that this killer dressed in a cupid mask is basically killing people one at a time. That's it. Okay. But you've got weird set pieces. Like you've got a house party set piece. You've got this as a set piece. You even have Kate's apartment as a set piece. But like, just getting back to like the art installation, that where it is literally a maze filled with early 90s TVs, which back in my day, TVs were square
and heavy.
Heavy.
Yeah. Oof.
To do an art installation like what Max has actually requires a lot of time and effort. Okay. Can't just throw some flat screens up there. Okay. Those are very large tube TVs. But anyway, old man stepping away now. It's a very weird, bizarre set piece where he's like, okay, women go to one side and men go to the other side because I want you to see what it's like to be assaulted by weird mouths and eyeballs and be looked at like a piece of meat. It's like, oh, okay, dude. Whatever floats your boat. But that is where Lilly gets killed. And I love it how these characters are killed off one at a time. And no one seems to like care or find them ever.
Well, they do.
Did you notice that?
They do try to write themselves out of that, in the sense of like one character was supposed to have gotten like on a plane. And that
was Lilly.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, this is back when cell phones were the size of cement blocks. So it's like,
very true.
Nobody really had them. And maybe the smartest guy you knew had email, but like otherwise, no, not real. Well, I mean, I guess we maybe had email in 2001. Yeah. But anyways, it's like a person could just disappear pre 9/11 and you'd be like, oh yeah, they're in Europe or whatever.
Well, just kind of point, like you mentioned the creepy guy from across the hall from Kate's apartment. He dies. Never found. Like I didn't believe it. I was like, wait a minute. We spent time killing that person and then we never found him. Like, it's almost like they filmed a scene and then they just like cut it completely, but they kept the kill in the scene. You know what I mean? In the movie, excuse me. So like there's a lot of that where things happen, we just never find the body.
That to me seems like a producer cut, kind of like, okay, we need, because most of our ladies are not going to get killed or stalked till the end of the movie. We need to pad some deaths and stuff in here. So we're going to kill the creepy next door neighbor. And then they went, well, what about like when they find the body and the detectives investigating everything? And then the sleazy producer went, who gives a shit? Just don't acknowledge it. We got to kill for the audience. So the boy can have his weird rage boner, and then the girl can get scared, and hopefully they can have sticky fumblings in the back of their mom's 1997 Civic.
I believe it would have not have been a Civic. It would have probably been like a Chevy Cavalier or something like that.
Dodge Durango?
No, Chevy Cavaliers were all. I remember so many Chevy Cavaliers back then. Like that was everyone's first car.
Hey, shout out to Lane for the show. Her first car was a purple Chevy Cavalier.
There you go. That's what I'm telling you. They were all popular. But yes, so you have a series of murders that happen. You've also got some really weird like dynamics. Like as I mentioned, Kate, who I got to tell you this, and this is something that drove me nuts when I saw this movie. So I don't know what her job is. Okay. I think she's like a reporter or a journalist or something.
Yes.
It was one of those like early 2000s
Yeah.
jobs. Like you could say like, oh, what do you do? I am a graphic designer, but I never actually go into work.
Marketing. Yeah.
I do marketing. But what one scene that really made me laugh was, and I don't know why it's in this movie. Like I really don't know why it's there. But there is a scene early on in the film when Kate is taking like a shower, and she's taking a shower, and for some reason the water goes off, and she's got shit in her hair. Okay. She's got shit in her hair.
Shit. Yeah. She's still got all the shampoo.
She's got all the shampoo in her hair. Okay. And she like is in only a towel. So, you know, this is like, again, it's the scene for the boys. Because she's also tan. Like they clearly made her tan.
Amazing that she has a full head of makeup from being in the shower.
She's in the shower, but she's got a full head of makeup. But she's like, oh my God, my water's off. I've got, you know, shampoo and conditioner in my hair. And what does she decide to do? Which she was very quick to do this, which tells me that she has done this before. And that is to dunk her head in a toilet.
All right. Here's the thing for our non-plumbing fans of Psychos Nation. The back of the toilet, that water is clean.
She didn't put her head in the back of the toilet, John.
If you need water, that water is pure. She put it in the poopy pee-pee water.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
She put her whole fucking head in the shit water.
There's a reason.
In the shit.
There's a reason that alcoholics like David Boreanaz in this movie like hide sometimes their booze in the back of the toilet, because if it's wet near the lid of your whiskey that you hide in the back of the toilet, it's fine because that water isn't gross.
Well, I watched this scene and I'm just like, she's done this before. Like that's immediately in my head was like how quickly she was able to go, I have to put my head in the bowl of the toilet, tells me that she has done this a couple times. So that means that she always walks around with a head full of shit and piss.
Not a girl. You know, when you're pretty, it's fine.
Maybe this is why David Boreanaz was driven to drink. He's like, every time I try to make out with you, Kate, your hair gets in my face, and I know that you have been washing your hair in the toilet and not in the back of it, in the front.
I'm sick of all the pee-pee and poo-poo smells.
There's pee-pee and poo-poo. I got pink eye for making out with you one time. Okay.
I'm sick of using Sharp Plus. You know?
Yeah, gross. But yeah, that whole scene, I'm just like, who the fuck thought this was a scene that really moved the plot along?
She uses head, shoulders, and ass.
Yeah, head, shoulders, and ass. So gross. But anyway.
I'm sorry, Brian.
Go ahead.
This movie's based on a novel. I mean, reckon that. And I wonder if by a guy named Tom Savage wrote the novel.
Oh God.
And I'm wondering if a lot of some of the more bizarre choices, like the art installation, cleaning your hair in poopies, some of the stuff comes from it being a novel where you have a lot more time to expound on things. I don't know.
I just don't know what the purpose of that scene is for. Like a lot of times we like to say that every scene needs to help like move the plot along. And it just seems to me like that scene really was designed to show us like, oh yes, look at how poor Kate is. Look at the fact that she has to dunk her head into a toilet bowl full of water. And yes, look across the hall at the skeezy neighbor who is just like, hey, Kate, let's go on a date, Kate. Yeah. Like, is that the purpose of that scene? Yeah. Don't be late, Kate. Let's go on that date, Kate. It's like fucking weirdo. But yes, Kate has a boyfriend with David Boreanaz. He's an alcoholic, recovering. That's literally all his plot is, like up until the moment when it's revealed like it's him.
Which I thought was odd that like what was the point? Was it like, were they attempting misdirection or telegraphing something? Because it was. I know that it pays off in the third act where like he slips and he starts like hooching again. But to what end did they have in a narrative sense of giving him a drinking problem?
It made no sense. Like for me at least, it was like, hey, let's throw this in there so that we can say that Kate is still possibly, this is the reason why she's going on like the speed date shit, right? Is because she's got a boyfriend, but they're not really together now because they took a break because of his drinking problem. But it just it doesn't. It's not really necessary. Like I felt it wasn't necessary for the movie. Like you could have just said like, her ex was David Boreanaz, and for whatever reason, like they just decided to break up. I don't think the drinking problem is necessary. I think it's kind of just tacked on. And it's like, yeah, as you said, towards the end, he gets sauced up at the party, but clearly he's doing it as an act because he's killed people the entire time.
Yeah, it's a misdirection that is not a misdirection because like there has to be a point to a misdirection.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I would think like if he had a drinking problem because, let's be honest here, he is still dealing with the mental issues stemming from his childhood, being tormented by these women, that might make sense why he has a drinking problem. Like that kind of would make sense, but it's kind of just thrown on there as, oh yes, that's why we broke up, even though he's David Boreanaz, he has a drinking problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot that doesn't make sense.
And with him being the killer in the movie, it's like, okay, so he went to like an insane asylum and got out and hit Jim and had a glow up and changed his name and identity. And still, thankfully for him, all of the girls that tortured him are still in the same town and friends. And then instigated himself back into their lives, and then slowly calculated a plan to kill them one by one in no specific order, except for, I guess, Marley Shelton's character.
Well, Dorothy is in a specific order. Like that one. Yeah. Is in a specific order. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. This movie, you could say, is an incel's delight of a film.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. An incel's delight. Let's be honest here. You couldn't score with any girls back in high school, okay, or in this case, middle school.
Join the club.
Join the club. We all did. None of us did. Okay. We're two nerds. Okay, right here.
Brian, I had all the sex.
Of course, did
all the sex and things and stuff.
Yeah, yourself doesn't count.
Damn it! I was gonna say
Skinamax doesn't count, John. Skinamax doesn't count, John. Okay, but yeah, so this guy doesn't get any girls in high school. And what does he do? He, as you said, John, he glows up, and then instead of like just, I don't know, being David Boreanaz and going on with your life, yes, he decides to come up with this crazy plan in which he's going to not only already date one of the girls that he was in love with in middle school. So it's like, dude, you won.
Yeah.
Good job. Game over. But now it's like, I'm going to get revenge on all of them. But I'm still going to date the one. Right? Like I'm still dating the one, but I'm going to get revenge on all of them. And it's going to take like what was it? Like 15 years?
Yeah.
15 years.
It's such an elaborate way to do it. Like, you wait till one of them's taking out their garbage and just shoot them with a sniper rifle. Like, you don't have to wear the Valentine's Day mask and slowly stalk them like you're Michael Myers.
And my question is, why does he wait that long? What is it about, like, you have to wait like that long? Like there's never a point where, like, most traditional slashers will say like, oh yes, it was 10 years ago that this thing happened. Like Prom Night, I think, was one of them that it was 10 years ago. Yeah. So it's like the traditional thing. This is just like a random Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Which
just random.
It wasn't a Valentine's Day dance in the movie too. It was just a dance.
I think it was a Valentine's Day
Was
dance.
it themed? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was themed to Valentine's
Day. I just
Day.
rewatched this and I don't even remember that.
Same here.
Yeah.
I fortunately this was on I think this was on what, like, I forget what platform.
Max? Was it Max?
I think it might have been Max.
We didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah. It was in a Max, or I think it was Prime. But anyway, yeah, like this is just a random Valentine's Day when Jeremy decides, yes, this, after all the time, and after I finally got my glow up and I finally got, Kate, then now I could start killing people. The only thing I can guess is that maybe because of the fact that Kate broke up with him, now he's like, I'm going to kill all of you. Well, that's the only thing I could think of.
See, Brian, it takes a long time to work on your traps, your trapezius muscles, and your triceps. Like he had to get swole first, and that's no easy task, especially when you have horrendous nosebleeds.
Yes, I was waiting when we were going to get to the nosebleed stuff. Yeah, kind of the worst type of killer to be when you're constantly leaving DNA everywhere.
DNA, Brian, this is pre-CSI.
No, but I'm just saying, like, this guy is bleeding out his nose every single time that he gets off killing somebody.
Yeah.
You're telling me that blood isn't left behind? Like, Dexter could come by and be like, oh, yes, I know exactly who this killer is.
But your DNA
immediately know.
But your DNA has to be on file.
Oh, yes. You're telling me that Jeremy never did anything wrong, that his DNA was never taken at any of the mental hospitals that he went to.
I was going to say, he was in a sanitarium. They took his DNA.
They have his DNA on file. Of course they do. Now, this is 2001, so DNA tech might not be nearly as exhaustive as it is now, but still, you could find out who it was. But yeah, he bleeds out of his nose at every kill. And I got to go. You're telling me that no one's seen the droplets of blood all over the floor?
Well, I do love that he basically has nose cum.
Oh, yeah, it's totally nose cum.
Yeah. Well, we're not even being perverts here.
We're not being perverts. This is the movie.
Is essentially saying that murder is giving him a nose ejaculate.
A nose ejaculate.
Which I thought would be boogers, because that's closer to cum, but no, it's blood.
No, it's blood. It's blood. It's got to be blood, and it's done to be off-putting and creepy and that sort of thing. Which, good job, movie, you do that. But again, I go back to, these must be the worst detectives of all time, because the guy's bleeding everywhere. You're telling me you can't, like, look at the droplets of blood and go, oh yes, get our lab tech people over here to go and swab that.
Hey, when you're
match it with any of the people that we have thinking that they're, like, the suspects
or in the system in general. But Brian, when you're trying to get to, second base with Paige Pontavious Prescott, you don't have time for stupid DNA.
That's true. That's true, because the detectives are busy worrying about other things, like getting with Paige. Don't know why Paige doesn't put out anything saying that she's, like, flirting with any of the detectives. That's just her.
Well, I think, like, that's the thing. Like, she's obnoxious as hell to the police detective, but I think there are so many men out there that when a beautiful woman is rude to them, they think it's flirting, because they just so desperately and ignorantly want to be with that person. They went, oh, she must want me because she constantly mocks me.
She said, I hate your guts, go away. Well, that means there's a chance.
Yeah.
That means there's a chance. I hate your guts, go away. I never want to date you ever. So you're telling me there's a chance.
Hey, pimply faced John in his horrible cargo pants and Nirvana t-shirt at like 15 would have been like, hey Paige. Like, go away, I don't want you. Oh, yeah, that means you do.
That's a good Butthead. That's a good Butthead reference there. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Dorothy and her weirdo relationship. So
which one's Dorothy?
So Dorothy is the rich one.
Oh yeah,
Capshaw's daughter.
The smoochie under the bleachers one.
She's the smooch. She's the one who really is in my opinion. If Jeremy's going after anyone, it should be her. Like,
Yeah,
she really is the one who, like, accused him of sexual assault and got him beat up by a bunch of bullies. And
yeah, the
I don't
girl
know
who
why he's going for all of them. Paige, Dorothy clearly is in the wrong.
Yeah, the girl who cried rape. And can we just briefly talk about, like, this is clearly written by a man who,
Oh,
like,
I was waiting for you to talk about that. It absolutely is written by men.
it's like, well, women are always loud about rape. It's like, oh, for the love of God, no, shame on you. But yeah,
Yeah, no, it's clearly a plot point that I'm like, this has not aged well at all. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, what's illustrated in the film clearly shows that she was in the wrong. But how many people have used that whole analogy against actual victims in real life? And that's the thing that gets me, is like, this is perpetuating that myth rather than taking it away. So it's, in the movie's world, clearly Dorothy's in the wrong. That she did, kind of cry wolf and get this kid, kicked the shit out of by bullies and sent away to a mental hospital, a couple ones. And but he did get a glow up, he did get a glow up. But yeah, she decides as a grown woman to throw a Valentine's Day party, which I go with, like, that is clearly a sign that you have way too much fucking money
and way too much time because you have way too much money. Yeah. It's
like Valentine's Day is not a holiday that I think anyone is just like, yes, this is prime party time. Like, when you're past the age of 12, it's no longer prime party time.
Well, right. I think it goes to when slashers got their meteoric rise. It was so easy to base one around a holiday, New Year's Evil, April Fool's Day, even like Happy Birthday to Me, which is everyone's birthday is their own holiday. But like, if you're going to base it around the holiday, you have to come up with some kind of excuse in the movie where everybody is just really into that fucking holiday when nobody actually is.
Yeah, I guess that's a point. But I just thought to myself, I'm like, I don't know any grown up who is like, I'm going to throw a Valentine's Day party. Like, I've known people who are like, hey, yeah, we're going to have Galentine's Day and do something like go out to dinner or go dancing or something like that. Or, you will take your significant other out for Valentine's Day. But it's not really one that I'm like, this serves as a party situation. And that's why I go, like, the ending sequence of this really makes zero sense, because why would Dorothy be like, I need to have a Valentine's Day party out of all the things? And she goes on and on about, are you coming to my party? Are you coming to my party? You guys will be coming to my party, right?
Our friends are dying. Well, yeah, we're going to come to your party. I was
like, yes. We just buried one of our oldest friends earlier in the week. We've got this guy who's stalking us. But yes, let's go to your house party for Valentine's Day.
Where we could all easily be separated from one another.
Yes, we can all be easily separated. Paige is going to go into the hot tub because she does that at every one of these things. Which, let's just sit with that for a moment. Denise Richards gets killed in the most comically inept way possible. Okay, so here's the setup. Denise Richards, by herself, goes by herself to a dark part of the house while this party is going on and goes into a hot tub. Okay. Again, just as John and I pointed out, throughout this whole movie, she is being accosted by a detective who just wants to sleep with her. She's being stalked by a guy in a cherub mask, okay? But she thinks the smart idea is to go to a hot tub at her friend's house alone by herself. And sure enough, what happens? What happens, John?
Well, yeah, she ends up being drowned alive as they put the cover on top of the water. But also at
and
this
electrocuted.
Time,
don't forget electrocuted.
And electrocuted, yes. But also at this time, she also gave somebody a 2nd-degree burn on their dinghy. And And look,
that
he
guy
had
totally
it
had it coming though.
He had it coming, but I mean, you don't second degree burn a dinghy. That's just that.
Well,
you
here's the thing. That scene right there where she does like totally take candle wax and throw it on his dick. That is the reason why I say that this movie, even though it's not good, that is a funny thing that is kind of counter to most slasher films, right? At least counter to Denise Richards' character in most slasher films.
Yeah.
The fact that she doesn't go and have sex with him and all that fun stuff is counter to traditional slashers. So that's an interesting thing. It's one reason why I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing there, movie.
Well, yeah, I could have seen her having sex with the guy and then asking him to go get her a beer, and then he comes back. She thinks it's him in a ghost costume.
Yes,
and then strangles him with a wired phone because it's still 2001, so we can still do the rest of the Halloween scene. Yeah,
he didn't beat him with like a wireless phone hand, like the handset.
But Brian,
stabbed the antenna in his eyeball.
Let's be honest. I mean, this movie is lazy, and we need two things. We need Denise Richards to be on her own at the party, but we also need her in a bikini. So yes, this kills two birds with one stone. Oh, that Paige. She's always going to a hot tub.
We also need to have her to say, does anyone want to be my Valentine? Because we need something for the trailer.
Yep.
The trailer shot. That is there. It's from this scene. But yeah, towards the end of this movie, well, I mean, pretty much all of our characters die. And when I mean all of them, I mean literally all of them. With the exception of Max. Max isn't killed, but Campbell is killed via pilot light death. Ruthie, who is Campbell's like ex-girlfriend or former or current girlfriend, she gets killed for literally just like trying to warn Dorothy that Campbell's a piece of shit. And that's it. But because she's at the wrong place at the wrong time, she gets axed. Yeah, and they try to blame everything on Dorothy towards the end of this movie. Like David Boreanaz, in his superior wisdom, because he spent 15 years concocting this plan, basically pins everything on Dorothy. Okay, and this is even after like Kate kicks him in the balls, runs away because she thinks that he's gonna kill her, and then it's revealed that behind the mask is Dorothy, who did it the whole time, but we have no reason why. There's no reason why she's doing it, why she's killing all of her friends, other than just like, I was the fat one and I don't like you. Like that's the subtext for her, is that the reason why Dorothy was killing people is because she was not the popular chick in the friend group.
Don't you remember, guys? I was morbidly obese in school. I weighed 8 more pounds than you did.
Yeah, but that was the reasoning for why she's killing people. But again, it's a ruse because the camera pans up at the end of the movie, and sure enough, David Boreanaz is having his nose ejaculate again. Because he finally got away. And he's not even wiping it anymore. He's holding Kate, and it's just like dripping down his nose, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care at all.
Well, hey, we've all been there where we've had like a nut where we almost fall asleep with it just like getting stuck to us. We've all been there, mate.
Speak for yourself. I've never done that. That's gross. That's gross. All right. Do we want to get to some reviews? I've got some reviews.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
Okay, John, you have not seen these reviews, right?
I have not.
Okay, so let's take a quick look at what others have thought of Valentine, and we'll talk a little bit about them. So first up, we have, can't believe that girl rinses her hair off in the toilet. How did I miss that the first time around?
I didn't miss it the first time around. It is fucking weird.
Yeah, it is fucking weird. Gross, disgusting. That right there, like, easily grossest scene in a movie.
Which, I don't know, like, I know this is like before like bottled water got really popular, but like you don't have like a Brita filter in the fridge or something that you could wash your hair out with.
As you said, John, open up the back of the tank and get a cup. and pour it on your head.
And just interesting fact, because this kind of thing intrigues me. This movie had, I think it was a Pepsi Cola, and then when they ate the maggot chocolates, the one girl was drinking Minute Maid, and Minute Maid is a subsidiary of Coke. And I was thinking to myself, how do you get a Pepsi and a Coke product in the same movie? But again, those are the kind of things that are intriguing to me, but probably no one else.
I mean, that is an interesting thing, like, because those products both hate each other and would never give anything. That's kind of like, it's like when in Who's Framed Roger Rabbit, where you had Mickey Mouse and, you know, Bugs Bunny in the same movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, that would never happen because those two don't mix. They're oil and water. Warner Brothers and Disney, fuck that. Never would happen in a million years. Happened one time.
Yep.
But yes, I equally thought it was disgusting and gross. Yeah, gross, nasty. Let's go to review number 2. I want to inject this soundtrack into my brain. Me too, friend. Me too.
I was gonna say, I know, Brian, you would agree with that. Like,
were you a fan of this music back then, John?
No, not really.
Really?
Yeah, I was, for whatever reason, I was into classic rock. Like, so for me, like, give me Beatles, give me Bruce Springsteen, Simon and Garfunkel, The Doors. So like, I was into music that was before my time. So I was not super into what was like popular at the time. Like, you know, I thought to myself, after Kurt Cobain pulled the trigger, music is dead. So I didn't like anything too modern at the time.
Oh, you were a snobby snob.
Yeah. Oh,
that's okay.
Yeah. I was a bourgeois dickhead.
This was my jam. Like, literally, when I was watching this again, I was like, oh God. Deftones. I think you even had some Rob Zombie in there. When he was good. Like you had really good new metal. And when I say new metal, I mean the NU metal. So good. I even think like Marilyn Manson was on there back when we thought he wasn't a disgusting human. Yeah,
that was the only one.
What was that?
That was one of the only ones that I was unfortunately have to admit now was into Marilyn Manson.
I mean, I was into him until, you know, Evan Rachel Wood's documentary. But yeah, man, the soundtrack alone takes me back to high school. Like, it absolutely does. I had those tracks. I listened to those songs. So good. Such a good soundtrack. That's what I'll give Valentine. Has a great soundtrack. If you were a goth kid or a weirdo in the early 2000s, you were into those music. So,
here's one I can relate to. Batman Forever, D- movie, A+ soundtrack, baby.
They're definitely good soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, great soundtrack. I have that. I had that one on tape. I got that on tape, a cassette. All right, let's go to review number 3. What we got here? An Incel's Wet Dream.
Tracks.
Yeah, it tracks. Yeah. No, this movie absolutely is an Incel's Wet Dream. Like, it is, for a lot of reasons, really hard to watch this now, given especially that, you know, you have had people who still believe that they are owed sex. And that, you know, that's gross.
It was more of like his trauma than it was him not getting laid, I would say, though. But I see what they're saying.
But you know what I mean? Like here's the thing. His trauma I get because I was someone who was bullied. I understand that. So I get that to a point. But I have met people who very much were like angry at women because they won't sleep with them. And I can see someone watching this movie and going, see, I'm justified. I'm like that guy. So like, I think those people who are already pretty fucked up in the head when it comes to how they treat women can unfortunately see things in this film and pull from it and apply it to themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I would say too, is that this film, nearly every woman in the movie, if not all of them, are portrayed as catty, heartless bitches who just use men. It's so clearly written by insecure writers who are mad that they never would have sex with a Marley Shelton or a Denise Richards. So like, I'm not saying the writers are incels, but it comes across that way of like, beautiful women. Can you believe them? They're all shallow and vapid and stupid because they don't want to have sex with a guy who wrote a screenplay like me.
And I wonder if the guy with the screenplay also had glasses and buck teeth.
Probably. Yeah.
Probably.
And a button down that he did the top button on. Ugh.
You never do the top button.
Never do the top.
Never, never, ever, ever. Okay.
Unless you're wearing a tie, you might want to do that top button to get the tie. Like, not.
That's the only time.
Yeah.
That's the only time.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to our last review. Don't reject a man because he will kill you and all your friends. This storyline is the reality of many women's lives. Yeah.
I mean, that person is not wrong, but I don't know too many people who are stripped naked and beaten with an inch of their lives in front of their entire school. But yeah, but they're not wrong. Like, yeah, it's certain.
They're not
reject
wrong.
a man. They just the man shoots them in the back of the head. I do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand what this person is saying. They're saying that there is a very real fear among women that if you reject someone, that they could hurt you, and that's a reality. Obviously, this movie is doing it in a very kind of extreme way for dramatic purpose, but yeah, I think there is some merit to this person's review of that. I think there is.
And one thing I would say in defense of that person's review is, why didn't the killer, why didn't he go after the boys who stripped him naked and beat him up? Why did he go after the women?
Good question.
Yeah.
Very good question. Honestly, I think that might have been something that they filmed but then cut.
Yeah.
I get the vibe that there were I think the vibe that this movie had a lot of pieces cut out of it. And I think that might have been one of them. Like, I could see where maybe they were like, there was a moment where the detective was like, hey, yeah, when they're revealing like all the stuff about Jeremy, and they're like, oh yes, he was in the psych hospital, and they're like, oh, what's this? Oh yeah, he killed this bully, and this bully, or like these deaths here are associated, like they happen kind of in quick succession. So like, that is what I would go to, because I would immediately be like, why didn't any of these people like go to those bullies back then and say, like, after they are grown up and that sort of thing, be like, hey, did Jeremy like come visit you? Like, what's been going on with you? None of that's ever done. So that's why I go with, like, they probably cut that part out. But yeah, good reviews all around. That's Valentine. John,
Yeah.
what are your final thoughts on this movie?
It's so generic that it almost seems not watchable, but it is also so laughably weird and dated that I would say that it is worth either a first watch or a rewatch, just to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that was 24 years ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. And yeah, so I would say that thankfully, how silly it is saves it from just being a generic copy of better things that came before it.
Very true. I think this movie is the last gasp of early 2000s, late 90s slashers. And that last kind of gasp, kind of like the way that, movies like Leprechaun and Tales from the Hood were kind of like the last gasp of that very kind of extreme gore, crazy 80s horror movie that we kind of all grew up with, right? The Freddy and Jason's and all of them. Those kind of died out with, in my opinion, Tales from the Hood being kind of the last one, and then Scream kind of coming into the fold. But this movie, Valentine, kind of feels like the end of that period, that 95 to 2001 period, where slashers were sexy and you had the same people who were on the CW being in the films. That's kind of this time period. And Valentine's kind of the last one of them. That being said, I think this movie has a lot of flaws. but I also can see why people really like this. I mean, John, when I went looking for reviews, the vast majority of people have positive views on this film, and you and I are kind of in the minor of this. We're kind of not in the majority. So a lot of people have kind of gravitated to this movie. They see it kind of in the same realm as like My Bloody Valentine, where it's camp, and that camp kind of exudes itself. I see that. I see the camp of the early 2000s. That's where I see it. And the camp of these stereotypes of these actresses who obviously became much bigger after this film, right?
Yeah.
Katherine Heigl blew up with Grey's Anatomy. Marley Shelton obviously blew up with a bunch of roles after that. Denise Richards took off even more acting jobs after this movie. So, I mean, there's a lot here where you have this microcosm of actresses who were at kind of their peak of popularity, and they're playing characters that are unlikable, but they're also, again, as I pointed out, they're stereotypes that are counter to a traditional slasher. I think that's one thing that makes this movie unique, is that it does present women in a very different way than traditional slasher films would have you. So if you have enjoyed this episode here, do me a favor and follow us on your favorite podcast platform of choice. You can go ahead and hit this little button here. I pop it up right there in the bottom. That's great. Follow us on your favorite podcast platform of choice at cinemapsychoshow.com/follow. These little buttons down right there. You just click them and boom, you can follow us. Of course, if you are watching us here on YouTube, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the follow button, hit the thumbs up, and hit the bell. All that stuff there does is push out our episode to more and more people. It really does help us out here on the podcast. And of course, with that said, we will see you next time.